Now I am really excited because I love watching great rants. I remember, a year ago, something like that, maybe 6 months, Jason delivered this amazing rant. And I won't get into it because, it's going to deliver another amazing rant. We have our Mentor Minute and our ranters combining it together. I'm not sure what's planned there, but I'm just going to hand the lectern over to our very famous ranter, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. The Mentor Minute, I'm going to do a Mentor Minute first. It's going to be about rants, not surprisingly. Then I'm going to do a rant, more to illustrate than anything else, and to entertain, what the heck. And then I'm going to step back into the Mentor Minute and just sort of recap and ask you for your thoughts. One of the reasons I chose rant as the Mentor Minute is I've seen a few people come up lately doing rants, and they've been very good. I've enjoyed seeing everybody come up and take on this challenge. But I have the feeling that people are being a bit polite. I mean, a rant is not an inspiration. A rant is getting something that really annoys you off your chest. And ranting is often associated with raving, going on and on about something like a lunatic. And I see an awful lot of very polite, kind of docile ranters. And I really want to disabuse everyone of that notion once and for all. So I'm going to go through the rant, and then we'll step back into the Mentor Minute and we'll talk a little bit about it. So here we go. A lot of people think of me as a good-natured guy who likes to laugh a lot. But very few people realize that right beneath the surface, there lurks this seething hatred that boils over and rises to the top whenever I think about that one thing that really makes my blood boil. Springtime. Now, what is it that I don't like about springtime? One word. Birds. Are you kidding me? What a bad idea. They chirp, they poop, they fly around all over the place. They're basically evil. And people say, oh, but they're nice. No, they're not. They are vermin. And at 4 in the morning, when the sun's just starting to come up, they start chirping. And this gets my neighbor's dog going. Now, for reasons I don't fully understand, he insists on putting his dog on the porch when he goes to work at 4 in the morning. Now, this dog starts barking at the chirping birds, and together they create a racket that can only be described as thunderous. And he won't stop for breath. It's a constant yappy bark. I have no idea how he finds time to breathe. How many times have I turned to my wife at 4 in the morning and said, don't worry, dear. He'll be stone dead in a moment. He can't possibly breathe. But he won't die. He just keeps barking. God, I hate yappy dogs. The only thing worse than a small yappy dog is a crow. Now, crows are vile creatures without a single redeeming quality. They're noisy. They're hideous. They fly around dropping stuff all over the place. They're as bad as squirrels. And I don't like squirrels. Oh, but they're so sweet. Nonsense. They are rats. They're rats with big furry tails and nasty teeth. And they run along the top of the fence, dropping nuts and And I don't like fences either. Now, they keep yappy dogs out of the yard. That's good. But once, just once, I'd like to meet a fence that could keep its paint in place for more than a year. I mean, what is it about fences? Now, I don't like painting. It's not my favorite activity. I'm not good at it. I don't like doing it. Now, I'm not normally epileptic, but you put a paintbrush in my hand, you better run for cover, because I get paint everywhere. I mean, I wouldn't normally dye my hair either, but after 30 minutes of painting, you darn sure wouldn't recognize me. It's gotten so bad my wife has hidden all of the paintbrushes, every one of them. They're all gone. The only thing that remains is the Wagner Power paint sprayer. Now, I have to admit, that's cool. Now, I'm a stereotypical guy, right? Just give me a power tool, the entire job is transformed. I love that. Only trouble is, our house is now the same color as our fence. So is the neighbor's house. And apparently that's not okay. People are so picky. But as much as I don't like painting, there is one thing that's even worse. Now, I don't know when this was invented. And I don't know why this was invented, but whoever invented it should be taken out and shot. And I'm referring to wallpaper. What a horrendously bad idea. It is completely impossible to put wallpaper on straight. And when it does go on, it wrinkles. I mean, what a terrible idea. No matter how hard I try, no matter what I do, it always looks like it's been put on by some Neanderthal with a limp. It's terrible. And speaking of wallpaper, it doesn't stand up well to anyone who owns big dogs. And those of you who own a big dog know what I'm talking about. Dog farts. Oh, baby. One good Doberman fart will peel the wallpaper off the wall in 30 seconds. Guaranteed. A few years ago, my wife and I had 2 dogies. We used to sit up in bed watching TV. The dogs were asleep at the foot of the bed. Every now and then there'd be this sound, and you'd see this blue cloud wafting up from the foot of the bed. And by the time you see the cloud, it's too late. Damage is done. I'd run to the window, try to get some fresh air. Can't do it. The whole room needs to be fumigated. You cannot sleep in a dog-farted room. Can't be done. And by the time that's finished, it's after midnight, only 4 hours to go before the whole cycle starts all over again. Springtime. It is not all it's cracked up to be. And that's all I have to say about that, Mr. Chair. Now, before you come up, I want to step back into the Mentor Minute again for a moment and talk a little bit about it. I love doing rants, but I want to ask you guys something. What did you notice? First of all, what did you hear when I did that rant? Anybody, throw something out. What did you hear?
Just your voice fluctuation and energy. Things went loud and soft.
Louds and softs.
You associate to Jason's theme of today.
That's John Paul. I'm Jason.
Okay.
Nice one.
You associate to John Paul's theme for today.
I'd love to say that was planned.
And then you associate it with many of you start with the birds, dogs, the yapping, paint.
So there's a couple of interesting points you brought up there. One is that one is the theme, and that was purely a coincidence. I'm very pleased that you came up with that theme. But the one about associating with dogs and birds and squirrels and paint is really one of the things about ranting is that you tend to chain things together. Like, I don't like this and I don't like that, and another thing, there's this and this annoys me and that. So you start to really build up momentum. And that's really important because when you're ranting, you want to build up a head of steam. You want momentum. You want to be moving forward. And I think that when you chain ideas together and one leads to the next, to the next, to the next, that gives you a sense of momentum, of real movement. And I think that's a really key part of ranting. And Natalie brought up a really good point too, and that's about the louds and softs. I don't know, is anybody, raise your hand if you're a musician. Does anyone here play a musical instrument? Raise your hand if you thought you were a musician. Still nobody. So in music, the louds and softs are called crescendo and decrescendo, but there's a thing that you call phrases in music. There's a number of bars put together, and you can get a phrase, and when you go from louds to softs and back to louds again, it's called shaping your music, and it's the same thing that applies to speaking, especially when you have something energetic and really emotional you want to convey. So you want to apply as much shape as you can to what you're speaking about. And this is really true in rants, but it's true in anything where you're doing a lot of sort of energetic and emotional speaking. So I challenge anybody who's coming up to do a rant, give it shape through the volume, vary the speed. You want to have some acceleration, then you want to slow down a bit, give it some variety, but above all, you want this feeling of momentum and energy and enthusiasm and just drive. So I encourage anybody who's coming up to do a rant, make sure you're building up a head of steam. That's where all the fun comes from. You want to get something off your chest. It's better than going to see a psychiatrist. And that concludes my Mentor Minute. John Paul.